Hello. Hello, hello. We're about to start episode 4, finally, after 3 weeks of astrological mishaps. Good evening, everyone. From a rainy Nairobi. It's a cold evening, and yes, if this was a real campfire, we wouldn't be able to make it outside, but since I'm indoors, I have it here. So, welcome, welcome. I realized today that my Corona haircut, which was short at the beginning, has now become some kind of, I think I look like a hippie Indian guy. What do you think? Yeah, do you know what I mean? Anyways. So today I'm really excited to finally be telling you about when I went coffee picking in Mexico. So getting my farming on. I think this was my second experience with woofing. What I mentioned, I think a previous week, the Worldwide Organization of Organic Farms. Willing workers on organic farms, so that volunteering exchange. So I had just done a previous exchange a few days prior in the forest in Michoacan, and then I headed south to Oaxaca. So I can see a couple of people joining the live. Feel free to say hi in the chat as I get started with the stories. So first of all, I have to tell you about Oaxaca, Mexico. Or Mexico. So Oaxaca is just the coolest city and state ever. I fell in love with it when I got there, and I decided that I wanted to move there. That being said, this has happened multiple times in different places that I have visited over the years. I keep wanting to move to different places because I fall in love with them. Anyway, so Oaxaca, just absolutely beautiful. So I went first to Oaxaca, to the city. And Oaxaca, by the way, is spelled Oaxaca, but it's pronounced Oaxaca. And I can see Edgar and Shire in the chat. Hello, hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo están? That's plural. So yeah. And basically the city it's in the hills, and there, at least when I went, which was 7 years ago, the houses and buildings were all low rise. You could see all around the hills. It was green, and it was such a colorful city. There were always things going on. There was the Zocalo, which was like the main square, and there was always something happening there, people selling, maybe dances going on. Every day there was somewhere in Oaxaca you would find, a fiesta or a parade or a dance or a performance. And I remember a particular one I went for, which was called Fuego something. Let me just check my travel diary. Yes, Fuego Nuevo, which means new fire. And this was basically, what I watched was a rendition of the traditional Aztec dance. But basically this celebration happened with the Aztecs every 52 years. And what they would do is that they would burn everything that they didn't need in their lives, like almost everything, and they would start their lives entirely from scratch every 52 years, because this was seen as a new cycle. I just thought this concept is crazy. A lack of attachment, the sense of starting anew. We often talk about, destruction being necessary in order for rebirth to happen. It's just crazy. And this is literal, physically doing it, not just saying it, or, when it happens, you're like, oh, now it's happened. But this is very proactive. They would burn everything they owned in order to start a new cycle completely afresh. Amazing. Hello, Amy. I can see you in the chat as well. So I was just talking about Oaxaca. Let me see if there was something else I might have wanted to mention. Yeah. So now I spent a couple of days in Oaxaca itself. And the other thing Oaxaca is famous for is mole, if I'm pronouncing it right, which is this sauce, or should I say sauces. And I can't remember how many different variations there were. I think more than 20 different styles of this special sauce that they put on their food. And it's one of the specialities of Oaxaca. So if you ever go there, you must try all the different kinds of mole. So now, the main theme of today is when I went to volunteer on a coffee farm. And so for this, I set off from Oaxaca City and I headed to the countryside, specifically an area called San Gabriel Mixtepec, which I am probably not pronouncing properly. And I was heading to a farm called Rancho El Sagrado. Now, this farm was run by a lovely young couple called Lalo, who is Mexican, and Alexandra, who is German. And they had a small baby called Rosalie, who was 3 at the time. I was just chatting to Lalo a couple of days ago. Rosalie is now 10 and so big. And he was supposed to come on this live video. He tried to last week before YouTube decided to randomly stop the live stream. But I think he might have gotten the timings wrong because I don't see him on the chat. So hopefully he comes on later during the show. Either way, he'll watch it afterwards. So let's see what I can tell you about Rancho El Sagrado. So basically, the volunteering exchange worked like this. I would give around 6 hours of work on the farm. And in return, I would get somewhere to stay, a place to sleep, wonderful food, organic food, so tasty, and beautiful place. I mean, the farm is just absolutely beautiful. The vibes were amazing. I remember, I think it was maybe on my last night that Lalo, Alex, and I were, dancing to all kinds of music from across the world to, say bye to each other. And there was a river nearby, just amazing with the rocks and the sun and the birds and the butterflies. It was just beautiful. And I think in a previous episode, I think it was episode 2 of Fireside Tales, I talked about one of my favorite moments in Mexico. And I described, dancing and singing on those rocks. So it was here. And I will be sharing photos of this on the Facebook page later because I've not yet figured out the streaming software. So my routine would go like this. 7:30 breakfast, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. I had a few morning tasks, which included washing the dishes, sorting the trash into compost, food for the chickens, other different compartments for the trash. And then I would be watering some tree seedlings and other plants. Then at 11, we would all have brunch. And then after that, I would be joining some of the guys, the workers on the farm. They were called Herman, Armando, and Abelino. And we would be coffee picking for the whole afternoon until 4. And after that was dinner. So if that sounds like a long schedule, it really wasn't too bad because I was lucky that I showed up on that farm at a time when the work was actually quite easy. So, I mean, it was just amazing. I'm just there, good vibes, good food. In the morning, I'm there, watering all these plants. And in the afternoon, I spend the whole day just picking, the coffee cherries from the trees for hours in good company of the other workers. We would spend the day, singing and laughing and trying to communicate with each other. They spoke Spanish, I spoke English, we barely communicated. So mostly we just sang for each other in different languages. It was great. So I should also tell you about what plants I was watering, because I noted those down. They were growing, all of this is organic, by the way. All the plants organic, no pesticides. The coffee is artisanal organic coffee, which I'll get onto in a sec. So I was watering papaya, pineapple, tomatoes, aloe vera, onions, avocados, chilies, various chilies. Mexicans love their chilies. Lemongrass, rui. What is rui? Apparently I knew when I wrote this. Basil, rosemary, and other herbs and plants. So that's about the routine and what we did. I can see that a couple more people have come onto the live show. So if you like, you're welcome to say hi in the chat so that I know who is there. Oh yes, I have here a little extract I want to read to you from my diary of my first impressions of the farm. The ranch is gorgeous, green, hilly, lots of trees. Apparently, it's way greener than this. There's a river running through too. Right now, I think I'm alone on the ranch. There was nobody here when I got back from town. As I ate dinner, the crickets were so loud, it was like they were screaming in my ears. Now, they're a bit muted by my cabana walls. The sky is starry and gorgeous, and the moonlight is lovely. Lots of nature. I shared my shower tonight with a big spider. The spider is huge, and it mysteriously disappeared partway through my shower. Yeah, there were a lot of bugs. I'll tell you more about them in a bit. I also share my cabana with 2 huge rats. I just saw them running across one of the beams just below the roof. So I was writing this from bed. 2 huge rats. Now, these 2 rats ended up being my companions for the rest of my stay on this farm. And I wasn't, yet accustomed to, the hardcore backpacker life. So all these bugs and rats and spider in my shower, I wasn't quite used to this. And I was really scared of those rats. I was telling everyone about them, like, guys, can we get rid of these rats? How do we get them out of the room? I even, I'll tell you about that in a bit also. But basically, every night I would get into bed and then I'd hear, without fail, at some point in the night, those 2 rats would start. They'd come out one and the other. They were a rat couple. So I guess it was their cabana that I was boarding in for a few days, to be honest. And I don't know, I think they were training for a marathon or something, because every night they go round and round the beams at the top. I don't know what you call them, rafters or something, on that line the walls. They were going round, 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 training for their marathon or whatever. And I was just there sleeping and thinking, please don't fall on my head in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping. I was so scared that what if one of these mice, as it came around, these beams were also just behind my bed. I was sleeping and the beam was there. So I was like, what if it misses its footing and falls onto my face? Anyways, that didn't happen, luckily. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the coffee itself and the whole process. So here on this farm, they were making artisanal organic coffee. And this is the Arabica coffee, for those who are knowledgeable about coffee. So funny thing is, don't hate me for this, I'm not a coffee fiend. I'm not one of those people who needs their coffee every day and is like, knows all their, the best coffee and this and that and the other. So I'm sure the coffee fiends out there might be jealous that I, who's, I take coffee, once every 2 months as a special occasion. I was the one who got to go onto this beautiful organic farm and really learn firsthand how to, grow and create the coffee from scratch. Let me describe that process to you. from the coffee picking, because that's where I came in. So I wrote here in my diary, I'm learning firsthand the process of making the coffee. Today, after picking the coffee, I got on the human-powered bicycle coffee fruit separator. Okay, very clunky name I gave it. But basically what this would do is it would remove the skin of the coffee fruits and spit out a slimy bean. Side note, the coffee fruits were so tasty. While I was picking coffee, I was like popping a couple of them in my mouth now and then when I got thirsty or hungry. Anyways, so that was quite a workout. I quite enjoyed doing that as a daily workout. And then now the slimy beans are then left to ferment in water for 2 to 3 days until the slimy layer comes off. Then they are washed multiple times and then dried in the sun for a couple of days, covered at night to protect from humidity. The shell layer is left on the coffee bean and it is then stored, possibly for years. So on this particular day, which was in 2014, we were roasting coffee stored since 2011. Removing the protective shells first to reveal the coffee bean itself. The 2011 ones are a light brown. This year's are greenish. The beans are then roasted on a big metal plate thing. The way I wrote is hilarious. On the fire, pushing them around to roast equally until they turn that nice dark brown color. I'll share a picture of this as well. Since we're doing this manually, the coffee beans are not all the same color at the end as they have all roasted different amounts. They smell heavenly and are hot. I mean, no shit, they were hot. Sorry, I'm so amused at the way I used to write. We then shake them into a pot to air them and continue the even cooking. After a bit, we tasted the warm coffee beans. The light ones are super tasty, not even bitter. This is Arabica coffee. Yeah, so very high quality coffee. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried eating coffee beans straight. They're usually super bitter. These weren't really, I guess the term is high grade coffee. If you have any questions on these stories that I'm sharing or any comments, feel free to type them in. I have just one more reading for you. Is it a reading? Yeah. So for some reason, I was really into the bugs. So I'll tell you what kind of bugs I was observing over there. While picking coffee today, I saw all kinds of weird and wonderful bugs, from beautiful blue butterflies to red ones to a cool green leafy insect to another cool green stick-like insect to a giant buzzing brown thing to all kinds of spiders. An ant bit my armpit. I killed an unborn butterfly unknowingly. Yeah, so interesting encounters with the bugs. And I should also note that the major bug I encountered there were some flying insects, smaller than mosquitoes, in the coffee, in the trees that we were picking from, hand picking everything. And those bugs, no matter what insect repellent I tried, they still came. By the time I was leaving, I had 49 insect bites. Yeah, I noted it down in my diary. I have a thing for noting down insect bites because everywhere I go, I always get bitten. By the way, even if I come to, I don't know, a really, really cold country where mosquitoes don't exist, believe you me, a mosquito will come find me and bite me. Bugs just love me for some reason. So yeah, 49 super itchy bites from I'll just call them coffee flies. Crazy. But it was worth it for the experience, you know. And every afternoon I'd go down to the river, possibly with one of the other worker guys or just by myself, and, you know, maybe just hang out by the river or take a swim or sunbathe, you know. I have a question here from Imi. What did the coffee berries taste like? Did they taste like coffee or more fruity? They didn't taste like, I don't think they tasted like coffee. You know what's funny? I don't even remember. I just know that they were tasty, but I don't remember them tasting like coffee. Yeah, I think they were yellow and red. They were yellow and red, mostly red. And yeah, I guess that would depend on how the color would determine how sweet or sour they were. They were really tasty. Yeah, I should try some. Oh, and for those of you who might have seen the picture I posted on my Facebook and Instagram pages holding a bunch of berries and calling myself a manzanita squirrel, those were not the coffee beans. Those were some other lovely berries called manzanitas. I'm not quite sure what those are, but I love them as well. So lots of berry joy. Oh yeah, here I have a few more stories about bugs. I wish the dog, who is called Kiss, didn't have ticks. It's such a sweetheart and I want to cuddle it. I killed a tick in my bed today. That better be the end of it. Yeah, bugs everywhere. So these are some of the, this is the other side of backpacking. You gotta do it. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Okay, I'll wait. I think we're back. Sorry, my internet connection is unstable because I live in Kenya, and when it rains, the internet becomes unstable. But I'm glad we're back. So in case, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Bugs. I was just saying basically when you're backpacking, you got to deal with all kinds of things. Like, yeah, and especially when you're going like cheapskate backpacking, which is what I do. I go as cheapskate as I can so that I can extend my backpacking for as long as possible. So I'll stay in the cheapest hostel. Sometimes the toilets are horrible. Buses can stink. It's also such a great experience because, you know, I might be there complaining about the smelly bus, but some people got to use that bus every day. So this is also one of the beauties of backpacking because you get to experience what life is really like, you know, for people in different situations. So Shayur has commented saying, "That sounds yum. I'm not a coffee person, but I wonder why we don't get coffee fruit in the market." Rhetorical question. That is a good question. I guess there's a lot more demand for the coffee itself, maybe. And I wonder if the coffee fruit would last. I think probably because there's a lot more demand for the end product of the coffee. Yeah. And you've also asked me, you sound okay with bugs and rats. Now I sound okay. So back then I was not okay with the bugs or the rats. I was so scared of them. And this is actually the last thing that I'm going to read from my diary. I wrote here, apparently, after some bargaining, I owe Abelino 10 kisses if he killed 2 rats in my cabana. To be honest, if only he did. He would totally deserve them. I go to sleep with much apprehension. So I wasn't okay with the bugs or the rats, but I've gotten used to them. It's also easier for me to say that right now because I'm sitting at home, unable to travel like everyone else in the world. And I'm not covered in bug bites and I don't have rats running around my room. I'm not usually okay when I'm in that situation. But I deal with it. I deal with it. It's worth it, honestly. Yeah, it's worth it for the experiences. Yeah, I think I'm laughing so much. I think it's been a very serious and heavy week. So lots of things have been happening this week. So this is a little bit of comic relief at myself happening on this live chat. And Shaya, you're asking if I was ever freaked out apart from the rat. Yeah, I could tell you one more freak story about, and then I can close the show. Yeah, there was a time that I went to Turkana. So for those who are not from Kenya, this is in the north. It's the desert in the north near Lake Turkana, which is the world's largest desert lake. So I was there on some field research, actually. about a certain dam that has been built in Ethiopia that is interrupting the flow of water into Lake Turkana and interrupting the fish breeding cycles. Anyways, so my first night there, poisonous spider in my room, this big, okay, and I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't even furry, or the way spiders look furry. It wasn't furry. It looked like it was made of plastic, and its head was like a droplet, and it was black and blue. I later found out it was one of the most poisonous spiders in the region, and if it had bitten me, I would have been dead in 3 hours. Yeah, so I had like a bit of a war with that spider. I was still, again, I don't know, but I had a super war with that spider. I was throwing shoes at it and throwing things. I was too scared to go near it. I think I tried to spray it with Doom. Nothing worked. I don't even know how I got it in the end. But I remember coming out of my room, and the neighbor, the next door girl, her name is Chloe, and we're now friends. And she's just looking at me. She's like, "Are you okay?" She's wondering what I was screaming at in the room. Anyways, hopefully you could hear what I was saying through all my laughs. Yeah, I've had to sleep in beds with bed bugs before. That was also on my Turkana trip. So what I did is I had a sleeping bag with me, and I slept on that instead. Lots of encounters with bugs. That being said, I don't want to scare people off backpacking, because you don't have to hang out with bugs if you're backpacking. Look, you can choose clean hostels. And nowadays, I mean, I'd almost never sleep in dirty beds, yeah? One of the first things I look at when I go to a hostel is the state of the bed. Is the bed clean? Okay, cool. You can just, go to the bed and discreetly smell, and if it smells like soap, you know that it's being washed. So yeah, look at reviews before going to hostels. So you can pay a little bit more and go on cleaner buses and trains. Sometimes, honestly, I just like to experience everything. So I'll take the roughest route at least once. And then maybe if I didn't like it, I'll take a more luxurious route coming back. So yeah, I think I'm done with stories for today. That was, today is my second last show about Mexico. Next week will be the last episode about Mexico, and I'll talk about when I went hiking in the Sierra Norte mountains. And then after that, I'm going to take a break from these shows for maybe a couple of months, 1 or 2 months, before I come back with the next country. So tune in, do share with your friends, invite them. And as always, I point here to the subscribe button and the notification bell. And I wish you all a lovely weekend. Lots of love. Bye-bye.